that,
It still has.
It still has QuickTime on it, and I'll tell you that program makes my computer chug.
It's garbage. It was garbage from day one. It's garbage now.
Well, it's a laptop from 2011 too.
Be a laptop from fucking 5 years in the future from now. It'd still be a piece of shit program.
Yeah, so QuickTime.
QuickTime never took off, man. It didn't. It's.
Yeah.
We're not recording.
Yeah, we're live.
Oh. Well, I don't want to come down hard on QuickTime fans, but yeah, if this was from a laptop 5 years in the future, it would still run like shit because it's terrible.
Yeah. I don't even know what I use it for now. I don't know why they have it loaded on that computer.
For a while, it was the only way to watch .mov files.
Oh, yeah, that's probably it then, huh?
Yeah, in like 2011.
Right. Okay.
2006 or whenever that thing came out.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so QuickTime sucks. That's a good place to start.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
This is a possible episode title, QuickTime sucks.
QuickTime, maybe. We'll see what else comes out. So, in case the audience is curious about our titles.
Well, we suddenly became a tech broadcast, right?
No, I don't think so.
We're talking about QuickTime.
QuickTime, No, we're just bitching about office computers. So, but
well, do we need to introduce ourselves?
Oh, yeah. I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
This is Coffee Before Bed, the podcast that is not going tech. So we just complain about tech, I guess.
I don't. Have we ever praised tech?
Praise tech?
Yeah.
I can't think of any tech that's necessarily worthy of praise at the moment.
Okay.
I know my brother wants to try a new phone soon. So,
okay.
You probably know which one it is. It's whatever one's coming out next week from T-Mobile. So,
Flip?
No, it's not that one that you bend in half like a wallet.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
Are you going to get that?
Not now.
Okay.
No, nothing against it. I just don't need a new phone. Normally I would have. I break mine on regular intervals, which puts me in the right position to upgrade. But lately, I don't know what's happened. I've managed to take excellent care of this one.
I've had this phone for like 6 years.
Well, I know. Even the wallet you have it in is fucking torn to shreds.
Yeah, but the phone itself is impeccable.
Well, yeah.
So there's not even there's not a chip, a nick, or a scratch on it. I mean, there's probably a lot of earwax in the plugs, but I don't know. So
I don't know about
it's
that.
got a cheap Chinese battery in it, so it's probably monitoring every move that I make. I did replace the battery with something that did come from China. So,
well, okay, if it hasn't exploded on you yet, I think you're in the clear.
I think so.
Okay, well, I'll give an endorsement for a tech product. You can do the same.
Okay.
I fully endorse the Sonicare Philips toothbrush.
Oh, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really good one. I've had one of those for years now.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah.
In fact, we just got new heads for ours. So it's a hygiene channel now.
Yeah.
Let's give out some beauty tips.
What are we doing? Fishing for sponsors?
Fishing for sponsors, yeah. Let me tell you about my wall head shape. So,
If you've done any shaving, you have a wall. Yeah, that's correct.
I bought one. It's way too freaking big for me to use. It's the actual USMC clippers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm afraid I'm going to slice my ear off, man. So I just used the little one that came with it.
Well, you're primarily using it for your beard, right?
No, I shaved my head with it. So.
Oh, you don't use the traditional razors?
I don't. I'm too lazy to do that every 2 to 3 days, man. And so I let it fuzz out a little bit just to see how much of it's gone gray. So, and then, and then it depends on whether or not I have to go to work that week. If I don't have to make an appearance on campus.
Yeah.
If it's just you and the kid and the guys at the bar and my wife and the cats, then I don't really care.
I suppose that's true. I mean, since I do all of mine, everything I do is online. I suppose if I haven't shaved for a few days, I'll just change the resolution on my camera. Like, we're going to do this one in 240p.
Yeah. I just turn all the lights out, So.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So,
I haven't done that yet, but no, I'm actually, me, I'm pretty good about shaving my head. This is the last day that it will go before
I usually go a week. I get it so that it's at that right, like, Kearney level of fuzz on it.
Yeah,
Get away from my car.
you're talking about that distinction between like clean shaven and prison, because there is a length where you're a prisoner. You're a
Right, yeah, yeah. Or you're just a bald guy or a balding guy, and so you might as well murder it off.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Sonic Hair toothbrush is yours, right?
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's
Piece of technology. I don't know.
that you could recommend, that you say this has improved my life in a tangible way.
This thing right here. So the blue snowball, or this isn't the snowball, this is the Blue Yeti microphone.
Oh.
The sound on this one crushes my other mic.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, and it was only like $30 more expensive. So, than the other one that I bought.
Well, that is not how much you paid for it, if I recall.
What?
For this?
It was $100.
I thought you got this with like points.
Oh, well, yeah. So I didn't use cash monies.
Oh,
I used
okay.
money equivalents.
Right.
Yeah. So in the form of the Amex points. So, God dang, we're white. I buy my tech with fucking with miles.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Most of our conversations about money or about currencies. And,
Currencies. Yeah, we should do a financial podcast. Then we'd be higher in the rankings. So, not a tech podcast or a beauty tips podcast, but a finance podcast.
Well, you and I could speculate on finance and be just as accurate as a certain number of professionals out there.
Yeah, but we get sued for it because we don't have licenses. So,
we could have licenses.
it's hard. Yeah.
Oh, I have a printer.
Right, yeah, sure. Legal licenses, Jeffrey. Yeah.
Hey, you got to do a whole lot of homework to really get to the bottom of our fraud.
Yeah, no, not really. Yeah.
No. Do you think somebody would actually look into it?
All you have to, if you go on the NASD site, you can pull up anybody who says they're a broker and see if they're actually licensed. It's public information.
Yeah, but couldn't we just say like we were licensed in like Prague? So you may just not see it in the.
I guess, but I don't know. I don't think I'd be taking financial advice from someone.
The checks in the mail. It's
from overseas.
Something that's impossible to verify.
So I don't want anybody advising me to turn my money into drachmas or something. Well, I mean, they're all euros now, aren't they?
We have not given a single bit of speculative, you should do this advice on this channel.
That's true.
And we never.
In fact, we explicitly told you not to use
Correct.
a HELOC to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. You don't need a license to dispense good financial advice.
Good, solid financial advice.
Yeah.
So we could do it like Dave Ramsey without all the judgment, So.
Yeah, but then are you really?
You're not really Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. Isn't that part of the charm?
I think you go there for the judgment, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, I took out, a $5,000 student loan. I'm obviously a horrible human being. So,
okay, so the Blue Yeti mic here.
The Blue Yeti mic, yeah. So
Okay.
a good piece of tech. So,
I can also recommend.
are you taking show notes on this one? Oh, yeah. See, that's our. We've almost got a system down now, man.
No, thanks for reminding
We're almost
me.
at like podcast number 10. Well, this is number 10 with minus the elusive number 1.
Yeah.
So this is 9 up.
Sorry, guys. Somebody called me a racist on number 1, and I couldn't let it stand.
Yeah, no, we had to pull that one down.
Someday when we're on tour or signing books in Pensacola or something like that, we'll release the unreleasable number 1.
I think we should just drop clips of it every now and then. So
we were just fighting the whole time, if I recall, right?
yeah, we were fighting.
We just arguing.
Yeah.
My brother was just antagonizing me like a mother.
Yeah, I know. He was going after you. You put a mic in front of him for the first time, and all of a sudden he gets all like, WWE on you.
I think so. Yeah, I think he was kind of bottling it up. It's just like I am gonna take your elitist approach to film and take you to the mat today, boy.
I'm not gonna fuck with his football picks though, man. So
he was 3 for 3.
He was 3 for 3.
My God.
Yeah. He and one other guy in our football pool at the bar actually called that Jacksonville game.
That's insane.
I know. Yeah, he absolutely called it. So now it was closer than I think he thought it was going to be. So
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
and the same thing was true with the Patriots. So he thought they were going to lose,
He thought they were going to lose, and they did lose.
but not by much.
No,
So
as
that was
matter
a
of
hell of a
fact,
close
they
game.
should've- Well, God, I'm not mad. Again, I'm still not mad about these Patriot losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have told you guys, as a longtime Patriots guy, I've told you that I've been waiting to see what happens after the Brady Belichick era is over, right? And I'm thrilled to the gills with Jones. I think he's just
He's pretty cool.
he's a superhero, just in terms of his offensive line is wrecked, but he's not getting torn apart. He makes smart passes. He doesn't throw bad passes. He just doesn't get phased. And he's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's a rookie. This is it. Maybe, of course, this is unfair. As I had 1 year of watching Cam Newton babysit the ball for 15 seconds on every snap before deciding to clumsily run towards the line of scrimmage for a 2.5 yard gain.
And paint every receiver that he was going to throw the ball to like a MIG.
Yeah. So, I'm kind of thrilled here. And again, these losses aren't breaking my heart. I'm like, well, they're close.
Sure.
They're close losses. I mean, shoot, they should have beat Tampa Bay. They missed a kick, right?
Right.
So I'm like, the future's bright for these guys, because you can tell, like, you have personnel problems, but those are things that you can fix. There's not a fundamental. It is not like you're hunting for your guy. 20 years of not knowing who your quarterback is in Chicago, kind of problem. The misery years in Denver after Elway retired. The void left behind by Dan Marino, where it was like, oh, Jay, was it Fiedler? Yeah, Fiedler.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, Feely was on the
Jake Feely.
He was on the Falcons.
The Falcons.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay Feely was on the Falcons.
That's right.
So I'm thrilled with that. But yeah, Will was
Nailed it. Yeah. Yeah.
and his reasons were there was no just lucky guesses. It was just
No.
This is why.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't mess with him. So I don't think he got top spot though over the weekend. I don't know. I'll have to check with my brother. So
If not, was he close?
he's definitely close. He's got to be like top 5 in the league. So something like that. But he's pretty solid for football advice this year. Baseball, I'm not so sure. So
Well, I didn't have my Red Sox getting this far into the playoffs anyway. So.
well, yeah, I was surprised you guys got past the Rays. So, you successfully snatched that pennant out of the wood chipper without losing too many fingers. I'm impressed.
All you and I were fighting about was who gets to lose to the Rays.
Right.
And
Yeah.
coming into those scores of 11-2.
Yeah.
Am I reading this right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they lost in heartbreaking fashion last night.
There's controversy.
I'm not surprised. So,
But it's tied up. So
because that was what, like 7 runs in 1 inning, something stupid like
something
that.
stupid.
That's not postseason baseball, man.
I mean, it happens in postseason baseball sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's but yeah, it's knotted up.
Yeah.
Avs aren't off to the start that I'd hoped, but there is promise
There's a
there.
lot of hockey.
Yeah, but I'm into that.
Are you?
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be watching a lot.
Okay. Yeah. No. Postseason baseball, football, and then I go into hibernation for 4 months until baseball starts again.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine,
Yeah.
dude. You're under no obligation to find a sport just because no sports are on.
There are no
That's
sports
crazy.
on. I don't think I'm going to be watching the Winter Olympics this year either. So, yeah.
Why are you boycotting the CCP?
Yeah, I think so, man. So, yeah, I think I'm actually on board with that. So, I mean, the Winter Olympics are kind of fun. So, there are a couple sports in particular, like curling. I fucking love watching curling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. So, but like the IOC came out the other day and they explicitly said something along the lines of, "Well, we don't get involved in politics." I was like, "Horse shit, you don't." This has been going on for a while, So
Don't get involved in politics,
Right.
indeed.
yeah, and it was like, come on, man. So it's just so blatant.
Well, what about, okay, now I'm going to admit that I do like the Summer Olympics more than the Winter Olympics, but
Yeah.
what did you like that reaction after China got their clock clean? Then they were like, no, we won the most medals because Taiwan and Hong Kong are ours.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
sure.
So yeah. Well, then I think England got them most because they could claim us and Canada.
Oh, the whole Commonwealth?
Yeah, the whole Commonwealth. Yeah,
yeah.
Australia. So that's
We
not
own
their
anything
swing
that
team.
has-
Yeah.
Our monarchs on their money.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. No, that was pretty. I mean,
That's a pretty bitch move.
Dude,
That's-
come on. I mean, who expects somebody to actually believe that? So, outside of China, I mean, it's just crazy. So, but I mean, there's like ever since, you started seeing oh, what's the other thing that I saw? I mean, they have like the highest grossing movie of the year is a movie about the Korean War told from the standpoint of the Chinese.
Oh, yeah. And
Did
they're
you
just
see that?
mopping the floor with the Americans.
Right, yeah, it's like reverse Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. Like, in your wildest wedded dreams, you fuck ups. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I saw that picture and they were like actually using Sherman tanks and period uniforms and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I wonder if the guys who loaned the Chinese this, stuff kind of knew what they were going to do with it. Because there's not that many of those hanging around. And, I mean, you do have to approach like people who have collections in order to do movies like that.
I see. All right. But what's your John Carpenter had a famous quote. I can't remember it exactly, but basically it was his way of talking about when they remake his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked, like, oh, so what do you think when somebody remakes your movies or the remake of this movie? And he just said, like, oh, I'd love when people remake my movies. He's like, I just hold out my hand and a check falls into it. And, sometimes if you're talking about, like, am I going to loan you this collection or whatever? Right. What are you paying?
Yeah, that's true.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I guess if you drop enough change, you can get whatever you want. So
there aren't a whole lot of people that own DeLoreans these days.
That's true.
But a few of them do, and it's all for like Back to the Roots or stuff. Like, are you saying that you wouldn't like rent it out to like a white nationalist couple? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. What are you paying? It's like, I don't care if you want to go to a Klan rally. Yeah, I represent the car.
Yeah, right.
If you want to get married and you want to, jump into this, help yourself.
Yeah.
Are you paying?
Yeah.
Fucking white supremacist bucks spend.
I don't know about that though, man, because like George R.R. Martin has one, and I think if someone came to him and said, "Hey, we want to take your DeLorean to a Klan rally," I think he'd probably say no.
Yeah. It depends on why you own it. Like,
I mean, he just owns it as a piece of memorabilia kind of thing, So I mean,
sure,
yeah. I mean, so if you own something nice like that and it was actually tied to you, you wouldn't want somebody using your shit at something like that. So
it just depends on so if I had enough money to just dispose on a DeLorean,
mm-hmm.
right? To the point where I didn't have to think about, okay, but I'm going to have to drive that to work. Then I'd always be trying to think of how to monetize it, right? But
if you had enough money to just drop it on that, would you actually use that as an asset to flip more money?
100%.
Would you? I don't know, man. I think you get rich enough to a point in time where if you can drop that kind of change on like an original DeLorean, you're probably making 10 times more money off your investments every single day. So you're not even going to bother, trying to make an extra like $500 off,
but
renting out your car for a fucking day.
Well, yeah. But that's the thing is, if I'm in that position,
mm-hmm.
then I wouldn't ever rent it out anyway because I was
okay. Yeah, all right.
Because I was stacked.
Yeah.
But if I owned it because
you inherited it from your rich uncle or something. So
yeah,
okay,
yeah. Then of course you're going to look at turning this around in one way or another. Or look, if I inherited it from my rich uncle, I gotta tell you straightforward, I'd I'd be looking to flip it that weekend. I'm like,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
I get
want
rid
this
of
in
that
my
in a
house.
heartbeat.
It's like I like Back to the Future, but not that much.
Yeah,
man.
no,
It's
there's
like,
a lot of things I would trade. You know, even like pieces of memorabilia from my childhood, I'd be like, cash that out immediately.
100%.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't need that hanging around here.
If I
It belongs in a museum.
I'd rather sell it to just people, wealthy people trying to recreate their childhoods. If I knocked over a false wall in my house and I found all of my childhood toys recreated one for one, but they were mint and sealed boxes, C10, every last one.
Okay.
I might hold on to one or two, but the rest are
Yeah.
gonzo.
No,
And I would take those other ones out and play with them.
right. Pew 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 pew.
Well, I'm not an asshole, but there was like, okay, well, I'm going to hang this over here. This is pretty
Yeah.
cool, right?
Right.
Yeah, I have my propensity to collect things at this point for just the sake of collecting them is somewhere floating between 0 and 1 on a
Yeah.
scale of 10.
Yeah. What do you collect? Do you have any collections?
Just like odds and ends of things that I thought looked cool at some point.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And now it's like, oh, that's neat. I was buying like some of I love the new line of like the Masterpiece like Transformers and stuff, but
Okay.
again, took them out of the box, so I could like put them on the shelf over there. And,
Right,
and
yeah.
What do I do? I just look at them every now and then.
Yeah.
Like
So you're not hanging on to those to flip them or anything?
I wouldn't dare.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare. All my everything I read is all digital now. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, I used to collect books like crazy.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
not an actual hard copy book in ages. So
yeah,
I
it's
haven't actually read like even a digital book, like an ebook, in probably like 3 or 4 years. Everything that I read is on Audible now, so it's all audiobook.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So and I mean, it's gotten to the point in time where I think like most of the folks on Audible who suck at narration have been fired.
They've been weeded out.
I think a lot of them have been weeded out because the last couple of books that I've read were by narrators who I've never heard of. Because sometimes you get them that are like kind of like B-roll actors or something like that, and you've seen them before and you kind of recognize the voice. But now they're guys who are just really good at just straight up narration. So, because before the thing was like, I really want to read this book, but oh my God, the narration is terrible, so I better go just buy it. I think the last book that I bought was one of those from Mark Blythe like that because he didn't narrate his own shit because I would have totally listened to that. Okay, but it was some other guy, and I was like, this is excruciatingly boring. And it's supposed to be a really interesting topic.
Yeah, yeah. Look, part of his thing is part of his charm is his presentation.
Oh, sure, yeah, he's a Scotsman, so yeah.
Well, I'm sure there are boring Scotsmen out there. I just yet to meet one.
There are, yeah. I tell you the truth, I haven't met too many Scotsmen. So my godmother was 100% Scottish. She was great. She had the best like Glasgow accent, and she talked with her teeth clenched. So yeah, which like a lot of Scots do that, I guess. I don't know, but she was probably the only one that I've known who was actually Scotch.
I knew people who were part Scottish.
Right, but did they like grow up there Scottish or
No?
Yeah,
it was kind of like during the World Cup. You have a lot of people that seem to be perfectly normal white people, but then suddenly when the World Cup starts, there's a lot of Italian flags out here. There's a lot.
I've seen that with Germans too, man. It's all of a sudden Germans start coming out of the woodworks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So those were the kind of Scots people that I knew most. Like,
Got it.
it's a Scottish pride thing. Oh,
Got it. Yeah.
Never heard about this before, but
That's the thing is it's got such an oversized like cultural impact, and it is tiny.
yeah.
Scotland is tiny. So,
I think there may actually be more gay people in the United States than
there are Scots. Yeah, I think you're right. We're not talking lesbians. We're just talking the gays.
Nope.
Yeah, you might be right.
Just that section of that group. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, and, okay, so I think I misquoted something the other day when I was talking about Australia. Australia is actually a little bit bigger than I thought it was. I can't remember what I said. I think I said it was like 17 or 18 million people. I think it's more like 40.
I thought it was about the same size of Canada. Was my guess.
I think Canada's a little bit bigger, but like, well, size-wise, Canada's a lot bigger.
Well, yeah, but I thought they
Yeah,
were both kind of like somewhere
population-wise.
between like 30 to 35.
Something like that,
Right.
yeah. No, I was wrong about that. I did actually dive into their lockdowns a little bit, though.
Tell me.
So, like, I got started because somebody tweeted something the other day. I think it was Ted Cruz, of all people. Tweeted something. I know.
You following Ted
No,
Cruz?
man, I don't even have Twitter. I don't even have Twitter. It has to bleed through to my news feed.
I see. Okay.
Before I find that. It literally has to wind its way through the algorithm. So, which is like a Plinko machine.
Right. Yeah, you're right, man. It does hit a lot of weird pins on the way down. Yeah.
So, but anyway, he said something about Australia's draconian lockdowns and blah, blah, blah. And so the governor of the Northern Territory, which is Crocodile Dundee land,
Yeah.
basically told him to piss off. So he said, hey, we're doing fine down here. Here's your stats in Texas. Here's our stats here for our state. And then 0 COVID deaths. And he says, we're doing fine. Keep your advice to yourself, mate. All right. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty sharp retort. Let me go see what's going on with this. And apparently, like, most of the lockdowns are over. All right. Bars are open, concerts again. What people like, what I get, and I mean, if anybody can correct me out, because I do know a couple Australian students that I was kind of tempted to reach out to, but I kind of don't want to bother them.
No,
It's not really my business. It's like, hey, is
we're
your
not
country a
journalists.
fucking prison?
Yeah, we're not journalists. If you were writing an expose about it, there's people to reach out to, but
Yeah, we are not journalists. No. But anyway, it was one of those things where, like, most people were actually pretty supportive. There were a few people who were a little upset by it. But the people who were the most upset was anybody who was trying to travel to the country. So, because they had a 2-week mandatory quarantine. So, and this included if you were Australian and left Australia and then came back, bam, you're in quarantine for 2 weeks, regardless of your citizenship status and things like that. And so there were a bunch of people who were bitching about that because it's basically like, yeah, you're stuck in a hotel room. There's no beer, there's nothing. You get Wi-Fi and it's really expensive because you have to stay in this hotel. And of course, the hotel is going to gouge the shit out of you while you're doing it.
you're telling me it's not free?
No, it's not free. Yeah, exactly. And so, like, my understanding is that, like, a lot of the things that was going on, regarding Australia was vitriol from people who couldn't get in there. So,
Are foreigners
are allowed there, but you do have to do the quarantine. And depending on the state, it's either like 2 weeks or 4 weeks in some cases, and they expect that to continue throughout the year. So, yeah. So they did say if you're Australian, you can come back though. So
can come back?
yeah, you can come back. Yeah, it's okay.
Whereas previously, stay the fuck where you are.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Your
Yeah.
Bangladesh
Well, it depended
problem.
on where you were. Yeah, it depended on where you were. So yeah,
Your South Africa's problem.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we were talking about that the other day, and I just happened to see Ted Cruz open his mouth about it, and then kind of led down a rabbit hole. But
I think the only interesting rabbit hole I saw about that recently, and okay, I'll take that back if it's not as bad as some people are painting it out to be. But they did show the numbers from Florida, and
oh yeah,
so they are well below the average.
oh good.
Whereas they had been like, oh, mister, okay, you had to open this up, and now everybody's sick and dying again. Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
But evidently, their numbers are well below average. So,
Yeah. See, my brother told me something that was really counterintuitive about the South too, because he went down to to Alabama like 2 months ago for work. He said like half the people there, like especially around where he was working and stuff like that, nobody had a problem with masks. They were wearing them, things like that. There wasn't some great fucking die-off going on in the South. And obviously, like, you saw the stories about the Lake of the Ozarks and stuff like that, which was just completely blown out of proportion by CNN and shit. And then, yeah, he came back and he was like, nah, actually the South isn't in flames. Not everybody's, like, locked up in their house and shit and stuff like that. It was like, so it's normal. And he's like, yeah. And it's like, so it's here. It's like it is here. He's like, yeah. So in fact, he said people were more polite about it. So,
Well, you've touched on one of the major sticking points that I have in recent years is this thing, and you and I are guilty of doing this sometimes, but usually it's just in jest. There's always like a follow up of like, say like when we get into like Nebraska bashing or whatever,
Sure.
like it's always caveated with the whole. It's not when somebody stops to fix your tire; it is the first person that's usually broken down. So we're always going to tell the good with the bad, but there's this really ugly tendency right now to paint sections of this country with really broad brushes.
oh, sure. Yeah.
And really it's a lot. I've traveled a lot. So have you. There's a lot of it where, okay, so I went here. It's like, okay, what was it? Well, okay, it was like this, but this was slightly different. Or you get here. It's like when I joke about North Dakota. It's Taco John's territory,
Right,
not Taco
yeah.
Bell territory. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say like, oh, you should burn it down. Like you look at this place and you see this society that is roughly like yours with no Taco Bell but with the Taco John's, and there are a lot of people that say, because of this, the Electoral College has to go.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and there's
exactly.
and there's
Florida should break off and sink into the sea. Yeah.
and the other same people is like, well, yeah, you saw that line on California, and you're good there too. It's like, yeah, I get it from both sides because California's not like that either. It's like there is some of that weird shit. There's some of that weird shit here.
Yeah, sure, man. Dude, I lived in Boulder for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I know, and I mean, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Like,
It's pretty.
it's gorgeous up there. Yeah, and people aren't psychotic. I mean, there's a
There
few
are
weirdos
some
out there. There are some
psychotics.
psychos there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But they're not like roving around the streets, accosting you as soon as you cross over 36. So
No,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really the type to be accosted, but
Right. Yeah.
you got to pick your targets.
Right. Yeah. No, you're not. You're not a soft target.
Well, yeah, so,
Panhandling. Yeah. No.
part of that too is just like, what? I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, right, yeah. No, and I mean, there's other parts of it too. Like the whole thing about New York just keeps blowing my mind, man.
Oh, the protests.
Dude, I don't know anybody who likes Bill de Blasio, and I know tons of people from New York. And none of them like him. So
It's weird.
like, where is this fucking support coming from? And then, then when you hear people like, talk about, the left coast and the fucking Northeast corridor, blah blah blah. The libs and things like that. It's like, dude, you've never been there, have you? The people there are normal. Okay.
Yes.
There's a couple neighborhoods probably in San Francisco where you would feel a little bit out of place. Got it. All right. There's probably a couple places in Soho where you suddenly realize, oh, wow, I am not bohemian enough to live here. So
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little
No.
bit. Yeah. But you cross over into Brooklyn.
well,
yeah.
Brooklyn's got kind of.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get
It's
it.
gotten
But you're
kinda
going to find
hipstery,
that in
but yeah.
Boise, Montana, too, or Idaho.
Yeah.
And then same thing with Bozeman, Montana, too. I mean, so like, it's not that different from where you live. All right. And the people there are not that different. They'll help you change a tire if you need to. They'll give you directions and not send you, down to the place where they're going to rob you later.
Shall we?
All around the
Okay.
guys,
Shall
yeah.
Shall we tell the subway story?
Oh, yeah, sure. The subway story. Yeah.
Okay. So when we arrived in New York the first time, I was 20 and the other guys were like 22.
Yeah.
We were relatively unfamiliar with this, and we're standing after having got off the airplane. We're going to the subway station, and the four of us idiots were sitting there looking at a map. And within I don't know 3 minutes.
Oh, if that. I was like the first guy who came down the hallway.
A nice guy with a
So-
briefcase and a hat and like a long coat came up to us and asked us like, "Oh, you guys are you guys trying to get somewhere?"
Yeah.
And so we told him, and he just pointed out, okay, well, so you want to take this train,
Yeah.
and you want to take it to here because
Yeah.
this, this, and this.
Yeah, we were about to get on the LIRR. We were about to go up Long Island without even realizing it.
That'd have been weird.
Well, and that guy said, yeah, you need to take that train over there. That's the actual subway.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
he was nice about it.
Of course he was.
He wasn't even
A
a
super
jerk.
friendly guy.
Yeah. This is in the middle of Manhattan. We're obviously just out of LaGuardia at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he just helped us out just because. And the funny thing is, go to the West Coast. I told you about this in Portland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so over there in Portland, they have a rough, tough, and dangerous that goes from the airport over to essentially.
But Jeff, what's a rough, tough, and dangerous?
Well, it's the RTD.
Yeah, there you go, the RTD.
So I'm taking these trains from the airport with my mother, and you like there are these weird places where you switch out on these things, and I'm trying to read the map, and my 70-year-old mother is trying to read the map, and she doesn't read maps well on her best day. Look, the two worst people with directions in the whole family are both pointing at this map with like 14 colors on it. And she's like, what do I do? I'm like, I haven't been here before. I don't know. Like, you've written this before. Like, where is this going? I don't know. She's like wandering around. She's some like Antifa looking dude for directions. And he's like, hey, no problem. All right, let's go over here. It's like, okay, so where you're coming from? Where, and you want to go where? It's like, take this train, this train. Okay. So hang out here. You're gonna see the orange line coming. Jump on that. Okay, and then hang on that for the rest of it. Right. Then we walked away. Then he burnt down a post office, but he was super nice to us.
Through a brick.
He went back to, fighting the establishment.
Sitting there chinking one out of the train station. Oh, yeah, I'll help you. Here, hold my tools.
Yeah, he was actively drawing a mural of, George Floyd on, on public property or something. I don't know, but he just stopped. He's like, Oh, wait a second. That's right. You are fellow human beings in the United States, right?
Right.
Which is this thing we all have in common.
Yeah.
Right? And there's this weird... Yeah, we've talked about this before, where like the United States is far and away the most courteous country.
Oh, hands down.
By a country mile.
Oh, head and shoulders.
Yeah.
By a standard deviation at least. And I'm not coming from a point in time where I've traveled overseas. Okay.
Have you known overseas people?
I have known lots of overseas people, Joe, particularly from school, and there's like a level of, like, depending on where they come from, there's a level of thinly veiled hostility, indifference, just flat out arrogance. I've seen that too.
Yeah,
that is like, I mean, you don't know which one you're going to get, but you're going to get one of them. So,
or just a general like fear of competition.
Sometimes
that person wants what you want.
Sometimes that I have seen that, and that's not to say that all foreigners are like that. Of course, no. In fact, most of them, particularly like, so
the one I was raised by was like that.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole episode worth of stories there. I'll just call it Remembrances and Frying Pans or something.
Yeah.
So, War and Remembrance. There you go. Just steal that one from our
I think it just go in there. That's great food, terrible child rearing.
Right. Yeah, great food. Yeah. So. And so most of the students that I've dealt with from overseas come from like one of two places, either Germany or South Korea. Okay. They're great. I don't think I've had an experience with anybody from either of those two countries that was negative. And most of them, like in most respects, are probably the most appreciative of their opportunity to be able to stay in America.
That makes sense, yeah.
They really like it.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no intention of staying here. Although I've run into a couple, even from Germany, who are like, I'd love to live here, because back home, I'm going to go back home, I'm going to get a job with Siemens or, Volkswagen or something like that, and I'm going to be a punch clock for 30 years before I get a raise, kind of thing. It's like, that's just the way the system works. And so they'd like to come here. It's like, wow, you can actually get promoted, here based upon merit. And I was like, well, kind of. Here there's just enough opportunities where, if you run into an opportunity where, you're not the boss's nephew, you can just go find another company. It's fine. It's not like Germany where there's like, what, 3?
South Koreans too. It's like,
right.
Wait. How big is your house? You say like 1,200 square.
1,200.
You must be a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've heard that too from the South Korean students. So it's like, you live in a house? Yes, I live in a house. It's 2,800 square feet. They're just like, what?
Oh yeah, you tell them the actual numbers.
Actual numbers, yeah. So
Well, and then you hate to tell them too. It's like, okay, so this much house in Colorado will get you this many acres.
oh yeah, in Wyoming, yeah.
In these states, these 14 states,
Yeah,
pretty
you
much
can
anywhere.
buy a country, you know.
Yeah. You know, and you have these people that are like, where do you live? It's like, I live in the closet of somebody else's closet.
Yeah. No, I've heard that. I've heard stories. You know, particularly, I haven't had too many, but I've had a few Japanese students over the years. So, and they're like impressed with the size of the dorms.
Wouldn't you be?
Yeah, I guess so. They are not, however, impressed with the lack of public transportation.
Yeah, that's a culture shock.
Yeah,
That would
that's
be
a
like,
culture shock.
so does a car come with the?
Yeah,
I don't know how to.
everybody, all of my foreign students have complained about that in one way or another. So, you know, they're like, oh, well, we have, the five of us have to band together and buy some beater because it's the only way we can get to Subway. You know? So, it's like, yeah, you're right. There's not even sidewalks here, is there? What do you tell me?
It's the most developed country on the planet, the most technologically sophisticated country on the planet. It was like, well, okay, if you want to go something to eat, yeah, no problem.
Get in your car.
Well, it's either getting on foot. I'm like, well, you have to walk through that field.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's full of rattlesnakes.
Well, the guy over there, he's okay with it, but you got to jump his fence, okay?
Right.
But you're gonna want to run
Yeah,
because that dog looks nice, but it's not.
it's not. Yeah,
Okay,
no.
but he's okay. He knows that it's in the way
Yeah.
there. But you just hop his fence, you
Yeah.
run, and then you go buy your taquitos,
Yeah.
and then you go ahead and bring it back to
Yeah,
the
you're
door.
gonna have to run back too.
Yeah.
The dog will be waiting for you. You know?
Which is weird
So,
because this is this was something I can't remember who made this observation, but they were talking about a road trip that they took, you know, through the United States, and what they were saying was, all right, so you start on this part of the country where you know you go from destination to destination, but it gets really boring because you get to the part of the country where every stop between things is an hour apart,
Oh,
if not
yeah,
more.
yeah.
But the thing they said is like, and this is a good point. Is like, but this is the thing where all of that land is developable. It's like you realize just how many resources this country is sitting on, especially when it turns to we've talked this before about this country could feed the whole planet
Oh, easily.
twice over.
Twice over. Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
That is one thing that like every last one of them has been impressed with, especially like sometimes during Christmas break or so, they'll go do a road trip or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they'll start like planning it out, and they don't realize that Vegas is like 9 hours away. And they're like, 9 hours? You can get across Europe in 9 hours. And I was like, well, yeah, but that's only halfway to California, you know? And they're like, oh my God, you just don't realize how big the freaking country is too, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And then there's that other piece of it. It's like, well, so how do you get there? It's like, well, you can get on Southwest. You can get there for $90.
yeah.
Right. You know how it works. You know how it works in the travel industries where certain destinations, certain hubs, you can get there for a pittance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. They get you when you have to fly to Minot. They get you.
Yeah.
When you
You're
have
gonna
to fly
go to
to
Gunnison or
Williston.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something
But
weird.
Las Vegas,
Oh, yeah.
sub
The
100.
airport is right downtown. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on where you're coming from, but yeah, $100.
Right.
And then you think about, well, how much would it have cost me to drive there? Then you think about the time, and then I will happily get on the airplane.
Yeah.
Happily.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I think so. I've heard from quite a few of them when they actually go back home, you know, and they start like talking to their friends, and it's one of those things where you just you kind of like.
Would you rub that dog's belly? She's
I will
begging
rub this
for
dog's belly. Yeah. So
she wants more.
okay, just a little bit more. There you go, Kinsasha. So, but then there's like this misconception of America as like this decaying, like fractured,
yeah.
He's just not with its society. And none of that is true anymore, man. I mean, well, I don't think it's ever been true either. I mean, they keep coming out with new GDP numbers every single year, and the decline of America just doesn't happen. And then the same thing's true, like you were saying. They just don't realize the productive capacity. I mean, the country could feed the world twice over, so it could power the world 5 times over. And I mean, the whole thing with us being like a net oh, thanks, man, a net exporter of oil. When you tell people that, it blows their fucking mind.
Right.
It's like, actually, we give other people oil now. This isn't 1979, dude. So, and then it just goes against the entire narrative of declinism that's just been, like, ever since Donald Trump got elected. That's just been the thing.
And
it's
before then too, there
were definitely your Tea Party guys who have disappeared somewhere,
vanished into thin air. Like,
well, I think half of them got bit by Trump by Trump supporters, became zombies.
Absolutely.
And then the other half, I think they got wise and decided to bunker up.
Well, I mean, that's natural selection at play.
Right.
Is when a species with an evolutionary advantage encounters the same territory. This is like, a Neanderthals and
Right.
Homo erectus thing. If I recall, those are the two. Homo sapien, I don't remember, but
Yeah, it's Homo erectus.
yeah, you have that moment where either they're murdered by the group there, or they have sex with them and they just disappear into the population. Yeah.
Is that what happened to the Tea Party?
So Tea Partiers
sexed out.
They've either been mated into the society, or they were bludgeoned silently, and I did not notice.
Get out and wipe them out. We will breathe them out.
I don't know. I haven't seen a whole lot of like Google Earth images of like mass graves of Tea Partiers, so I'm going to say no. But I guess they were humped into the populace.
God dang, I remember when that was huge, man, like 2010 and 12, a run up to 12. And then, Mittens lost the election in 12, and then they just got really angry after that.
Pissed.
And then as soon as Trump came along, poof, they're gone.
Yeah.
So, it was weird, man. So, I mean, there were a bunch at that rally. So Jeff and I, okay, for disclosure, you and I did try and get into a Trump rally once.
We did.
Yeah, we actually saw the man himself, from his limousine window.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we could not get in. So,
now, we like to stay largely apolitical and not make full endorsements. And I want people to be aware that,
excuse me,
that we were there for the freak show.
We were there for the free show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the bartender Matt showed up there and he wanted to cut. I mean, he was like, hey, he had his kids and all that shit. And then he was kind of eyeballing us like, hey, can I cut in line in front of you? And we just didn't say anything to it.
Doesn't matter because we didn't get in it.
No, we didn't get in anyway, but it was kind of like, man, I'm not giving up my seat.
Yeah.
I'm not even here to vote for the guy. I'm here for the freak show.
Yeah.
So.
And what was funny was it was just all normal people. Like, this is...
It was. It was kind of like standing in the line at a carnival. So.
Absolutely.
Now, there were a couple of guys here that were taken a little bit too seriously. So
sure,
and there were protesters there too. Remember?
But
there were like 5 of them.
There were like 5 of them. Yeah. I mean, I would just equate this to basically standing online to get into Coors Field or something. It was the same thing. You have some fans that are like, "Hey, it's Rocky guy," and then you have most of us there.
Barrel
like,
man.
Yeah. Most of us are there. I'm gonna watch some baseball.
Yeah.
Have some hot dogs and some beer.
Yep.
And
Get some beer.
we're gonna go home.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with that rally. There were some people that are like, "I'm Trump guy."
Yeah.
And most of us were just there. I'm here to look at everybody else.
There was a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the people in front of us in line, I remember talking to them. They were kind of in the same boat as us.
I mean, they were a little bit more wound up.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to do a little bit of that shit that your in-laws do, where they were trying to like walk you down a certain like political bear trap. It's like,
they don't really do that anymore.
Yeah.
But and that was not my mother-in-law. She is way too clever for me. But that was definitely my father-in-law. Just bring it up, I was like, well, so what do you think about gay marriage? I was like, oh my god, man, it says trap on it.
Yeah, exactly. So you have
Yeah.
you have an open order with the Acme company here,
Right.
For your fucking contraption. Because you're like, you really are one of the smartest guys I know. Why are you throwing out this
I know.
bullshit
Yeah.
bait?
Yeah, it's a hook with no bait on it, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like that doesn't look appetizing at all. So yeah, but I mean, it was kind of interesting. I kind of wish we had gotten in. We probably missed it by maybe about 150 people, I think, because we made it all the way up to the library.
We did.
So yeah, we almost got in. So, but we got there pretty early too. So
Early enough.
not early enough. Yeah. But yeah, and then after that, like, because before that, in the run up to that, I knew a couple guys who were like diehard Tea Party dudes who became Trump dudes, and then after that, they just kind of disappeared. Especially after he passed a tax cut. So it was like, so did you get a tax cut? He's like, well, no. It was like, did your employer get a tax cut? He's, well, yeah. It was like, is that what you wanted? Silence. Crickets. Yeah.
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 What was funny too was this is something that I also don't recall happening from like previous elections. Is I was listening to some guys, to some political guys, on TV, and basically they were saying it like this, where typically, you have an election, and then you have the president that's there, and then you break that down into this party or this party. This party's people are saying this party is this, right? But what's funny is even after the election, they still refer to the Republicans as the Trump guys, right?
Yeah.
That party is not divorced from that. As a matter of fact, it's almost part of that makes me say that they've actually doubled down and assumed this is their identity. It's like, I'm not a Republican, I'm a Trump guy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends, like, kind of how old you are, and kind of like how, I don't know. There's like two different guys that I'm using as like stand-ins here to kind of paint maybe a larger picture of what that party kind of looks like from the outside.
Okay.
So there's definitely the Trump guys who are your young, angry, I like guns, trucks, beer, and fucking dogs and whatever.
Yeah, I hate
taxes. They have like the entire like combination kind of going.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of your angry guys, And I can't, for the life of me, in some respects, figure out exactly what they're so pissed off about. I don't quite get it, because a couple people that I know that are like that, they have great jobs, okay, or at least very promising prospects.
Sure.
Okay, they drive like, yeah, they've got the $60,000+ truck.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're talking about building additions on their house or redoing their kitchens and stuff like that. And, then when you get kind of in a conversation that starts backsliding towards that, it's rabble. It's rah, 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 about all kinds of stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, man, what's so bad about your life? What's going on, man? You got it pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not one of these like Rust Belt kind of guys who's, got laid off at the mill and, your union's been fucking you for years, kind of thing. Yeah. I don't get this, Is it just because you don't like Democrats? And that's really what I think it is on a certain level. It's not so much that there's like a political ideology behind it or something. It's just fuck those guys kind of thing. And then there's the other type of Republican out there who kind of remember the good old days of Republicanism. And they're typically a little bit older, and some of them maybe got stuck into that Trump thing. But, others of them are the guys who are like out there defending Colin Powell right now. Because they remember that actually this guy was pretty fucking solid on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so it sucks that he died from bone cancer and complications from COVID. And the whole thing in 2003 with George W. Bush was kind of shady and shit. And that's the reason why he didn't become president. He kind of ate it on that one. Got it. But, he was still kind of a hero to a lot of the people
he did
who kind of feel that way.
Though.
I know he did. And I don't think that too many people really kind of like in 2016... That's like when the Republican Party was splitting itself actively in half.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think, so I don't think it's surprising that he endorsed Hillary Clinton. But that's why I'm saying the people who like a guy like that are not your Trump guys.
No.
That's kind of your traditional Republican base. I think those guys are fucking cooked. I don't think they're going to have a home. they're going to either have to turn into like Democrats, all right, or I don't know. What are they going to do, man? So nobody in the Republican Party is going to stand up like Mitt Romney, or like you're not going to have another John McCain in the Republican Party.
No, not.
Yeah.
Not that I can see the immediate future.
Right.
When it comes to really modern politics, I don't really. All of my long-term expectations are dead wrong. Right? They're always dead wrong.
Me too, man.
Shoot,
I've never been able to call shit. So.
What we'll say here is, all right, so that group that you talked about, right? There was a common thread amongst that group, and it wasn't just like I hate Democrats, but there were a lot of hypotheticals. A lot of hypotheticals in this thinking when it came to what was important. And so, for example, a lot of that would come up would be, well, what am I supposed to do if one of those people shows up in my bathroom?
What does that mean? What do you...
like
somebody who's trans?
Yeah, same thing where it came to the same hypothetical. It's like, well, why do you own an H&K? Why do you own 25 of them?
Right, yeah. So
what am I going to do?
What am I going to do if Antifa comes into my neighborhood?
Pretty much, right? And so there was a lot of what am I going to do? And any curtailing of somebody's ability to defend against what am I going to do, right? And this is where I can't sit there. I'm telling you, this was a common thread between a lot of people. This was the same. Patrick, I got to tell you, the one of the biggest political litmus tests that I saw was when they were talking about the guy who was making glitter explosions with the Amazon thieves.
Oh yeah,
remember that?
Yeah, that guy's cool. What happened?
Well, I mean that was
I don't know why that guy's coming in. So there's something here that's missing.
Well, a lot of those, what if guys were very much on the same thing of like, I can't believe they prosecuted that guy. Right?
Oh, they did?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For what?
Well, because you can't do that. You can't set traps for people.
Yeah.
The problem happened when they'd steal their packages, these things would blow up with glitter, and they were driving away, right? So
I thought they had to open it first.
Well, that's the thing. They would fiddle it with it, when they drove away to see what it is, because you can't see what's in an Amazon package, right?
What happened to him? So they prosecuted him? Did he go to jail?
I don't remember. He was prosecuted. I don't remember what that is illegal. Okay, I'm just gonna.
Okay,
that
all right.
It's illegal.
Yeah, I'll take your word for
right?
it.
And so there was a lot of there were sides drawn where it was like that should absolutely be fine. That guy's a hero. Blah blah blah. Like. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but, here's the problem is, all right, they take your package, what's the big loss? It's like, well, it's not there. So I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. What do you do? It's like, well, you call Amazon.
Yeah, you get a new one.
Right? Yeah. It's like, but that's not the point. I'm like, well, it is the point. I'm like, if somebody steals something from you, you call the police.
Right.
Right? And that was the thing is, I don't want to call the police. I
want to handle it myself.
Right.
Yeah. Are they just bored?
No, it wasn't a bored thing. It was there was just this sense of like, where's the fucking justice? Like there was this.
Yeah. Okay.
There was this sense of like, I can't tolerate the lawlessness and anarchy in these streets.
Yeah.
Realizing that these guys, I'm like, guys, you're making, 270,000.
Oh, your fellow rig workers and stuff.
You're not in a hotbed of criminal activity.
Sure.
Well,
and that's the thing that blows my mind is like even after last year's bump, 30% increase in violent crime in 1 year is horrifying. But if you actually go back and look at it, all the way back to like the 1980s, crime is down so far that a 30% bump in 1 year means that like 2021 or 2020, even with all its riots and shit, was a fart compared to 1982.
Oh, yeah. You're right. You're right.
So, and so when they talk about things like, there's lack of justice in the world and, like people, I don't know, man. I almost think it's more of a respect thing than anything else. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to have these conversations with guys who, I would lump into that camp.
And I don't want to lump them in there unfairly either. It's not like I'm saying their concerns are invalid.
Right.
A lot of these things have been fundamentally secured in terms of rights. I mean, Second Amendment for for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Right? Now, granted, I would argue some of this isn't quite the way that it was intended or framed or envisioned, but then again, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I fundamentally agree with the concept of it,
Of what?
of safely maintaining an armed population if they choose to be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't see any problems with it.
I mean, I see problems with it. I mean, you're
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know, but even like, yeah, that's dangerous territory for me to walk. All right.
I know we don't want to walk
Yeah.
it, and I know that we, but just by saying this, I want you to understand that Patrick and I are, by not engaging in some of this, is evidence that we've gone through the rigmarole of all of the common arguments between this over the past 25 years and before. So we're not engaging with a lot of this. So don't go thinking that, but what about this? What about... We've been there.
We've been there. Yeah,
We've
been there. We've talked about suitcase nukes and
we have
school shootings and all kinds of shit. And we've done the Second Amendment so many times.
Absolutely,
man.
yes.
Yeah, just in terms of like, all right, so how far do you actually take this? Where's the cut line? What should and actually should not be legal? And it's come up with every major shooting. And I mean, it's only a matter of time before we have another one. And I'm sure it'll come up again. But I remember talking about bump stocks last time, when that guy did that out of the Mandalay Bay. Yeah. It was like, I didn't even know that was a fucking thing. You could turn something into a machine gun that easy. Should that be legal? So I don't know. And I don't think it's just a gun thing. I think the gun thing is just an easy one to latch on to because you have defensible ground in terms of like explicit, language in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
But then you run into that well-regulated militia bullshit.
This is where I always get.
Yeah, no, I always get hung up on that too. Yeah. But, I mean, it's such an easy stand-in like issue for a lot of people who, rally around Trump that I think it kind of belies like what's really going on there in some respects. I don't think that, I mean, maybe there's probably a few people who are Second Amendment, guys who, are thoroughly concerned about the FBI coming after their guns.
Sure.
For those people, like there are more deer hunters in fucking Pennsylvania than there are soldiers in the army. So, you can look it up. All right, they issue over 3 million tags a year. So, and the U.S. Army is like 1.6.
Yeah.
1.6 million active duty, and so of those,
what's the reserve? I'm just curious.
Well, depends on you're talking about reserve and National Guard.
Yeah.
But reserve, so like Army Reserve doesn't have any combat units, all right? So it's all support units, kind of like the Air Force. And so if they need bodies, they throw in the National Guard. I don't know. I looked it up not too long ago. I think like total manpower in the U.S. military across all branches is like 4.5 million, something like that. And that includes active duty and reserve. So active duty Army and Navy are about tied. So it's like 1.3 or something like that on each.
Really not that much.
It's tiny. It's well, I mean, it's humongous compared to like everybody else's military.
Yeah.
So with the exception of China, and North Korea, so they have more bodies, but the Pentagon puts out these. Well, there's not just the Pentagon, but there's a lot of like international affairs publications and shit that put out like power rankings every single year. The United States is like crazy powerful.
Yeah, I know. That's
it's like when you play Civ and you build all the shit.
Sorry, man.
To cover every base.
You're absolutely right because you're talking about a.
It's insane how powerful this country is.
You're right, because when you do talk about how other countries have excessive amounts of manpower, the thing is, we have a group of people who have been very good since 1940 or so about trying to find ways to deal with the most amount of bodies with the least amount of equipment necessary.
Yep.
And they have become surprisingly efficient.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the nuclear thing. Most people just don't understand that, how like powerful the United States is in that. and they say, oh, well, China built a hypersonic missile, and, you know, like Forbes was even freaking out about it the other day. It's like, you guys don't understand, man. Everybody's afraid of us, and they should be. You know, we can vaporize any country in 27 minutes flat. So, and absolutely vaporize it.
The difference is we won't.
No, we won't.
No.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, no. So,
and you know what? Neither will China. That is
I don't
not.
think so.
That is 100% not in their interest. And
no.
on top of that, there's the additional piece of, okay, you have seen this, right? What are the implications of it? What are the likelihoods of this succeeding? What is the purpose of this? Right? You can talk about theoretical nonsense all day.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, I can tap into the knowledge that came from my father working on these things in the 90s and 2000s.
Oh yeah, oh
not
my
2020.
God. Yeah. Right. When the world didn't know what a kinetic weapon was. Yeah. So, Google that.
You're talking about, you know, you're asking my guy. It's like, why is this country so interested in satellites in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah.
You know, and this is pre like GPS on your phone days. Right. So what's the importance of this stuff? It's like, you can't talk about it, son.
Oh god, yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people don't think about too, is the United States actually runs the entire GPS constellation.
You are correct.
So I wonder if China has any military equipment that runs off GPS. You know? It's like, I hope your orienteering skills are good. I don't know, man. I have no idea.
I'm telling you, there are things about the military that a lot of people, and I don't blame them, you know, because there's a certain amount of concrete thinking that you think about when it comes to fighting, right?
Sure.
There's a certain amount of, all right, this is my hex grid. This is where missile launchers go. This is where artillery goes. And they think about it in this very concrete, you know, classic example. But it's just not that anymore. It's just the whole thing about the U.S. military has been in the past 20 years to reduce the number of bodies it takes to complete an action. And so much of this shit is done with Nintendo 64 controllers.
Pew, 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 pew. Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to say at this point? You know, that concept of this drawn out bloody, you know, war. It's like, yeah, you're right. These drones shot down a lot of those drones, and I wouldn't want to be writing letters to those families.
Oh yeah. So Johnny Microchip. So we hardly knew you.
Yeah, I saw this movie where 3 of the drones' brothers died in the same battle, so other drones had to go in and get them.
Right? Yeah. Right. So they had to get them. It was like finding a needle in a stack of needles. Yeah. We're all drones. We didn't even know. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, so the hilarious thing is that you see speculation, and I've seen tons of it, like on certain different like potential conflicts, and of course the China one is on the top of the list.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's almost like, okay, so do you think guys in the Pentagon didn't think of this like 40 fucking years ago? Do you think that there is not like a stack of plans somewhere in war games that get run like biannually or something like that?
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
All right. So in fact, I can tell you, you know, in some respects that if they do it on the unit level, which I know they do, all right, consistently, all right, of course they do it on the strategic level. You know, and so like it's just one of these things where it's like, all right, so have a little faith in your military. All right, it's doing fine. All right, and it's not this. I mean, that's why I kind of push back on the whole America's empire kind of thing. You know, we're not actively like. I mean, we are involved in a lot of places and things like that. Most of it's low level shit. All right, and a lot of like even like where we have troops stationed overseas, like. Kind of saw a really good argument that was pushback on like, you know, the idea of having troops in like South Korea or Germany and stuff like that. So the whole reason there is because it's peaceful there, you know? And so that's where, you know, U.S. troops do the most good in most cases because they serve as a balancing force, you know, that actually checks regional ambitions and stuff like that. I was like, actually, that's a pretty fucking good argument, you know? So... But then, you know, the other thing that I've been seeing a lot, and, you know, I want kind of like your opinion on this one because I've heard it a lot lately. is the Civil War idea, the second Civil War. So
Here?
yeah, here. So now I think this is horseshit, and it's never going to happen.
No.
All right. But the arguments for it are almost like gleeful in some respects.
This is zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on with this, man? So what is driving that?
What's driving it is this. You and I have spoken about this many, many times, right? There is this concept we talked about this with painting regions of the country with a super broad brush and assuming that the most extreme versions of people on this end speak for the whole group and vice versa, right? And there's this juvenile sense of chip on the shoulder. I wish the fuck you would, right? Where people are waiting to say, like, I wish you'd start this so we could go ahead and wipe you out. It's utterly ridiculous. And as a matter of fact, Patrick, this is what I'd like to say about this. Okay, this has been the study of people I've talked to, like students, from what I've been watching politically, from what I've been seeing, especially in China, when you look at the number 2. And then I started thinking about, all right, what has been the story with number 2 regimes down the road? So I started thinking about the Soviet Union, and then going back all the way to 1945, that sort of thing. I realized how ridiculously healthy this country is, and how far away from the Civil War II that we are. You know why?
Why?
Because nobody's actually being silenced.
Nobody's actually being silenced.
Correct.
What do you mean by that?
I can sit here and say that Twitter as an organization should be ashamed of themselves, right?
Oh my god, I got banned on Twitter.
Did you?
No, I don't have a Twitter account, man.
Okay, well,
no, you did, but you didn't exactly go out and start stocking up on 223 rounds.
Oh no, not I was picking on this one same asshole. I don't want to go into it, but it was just bullying him. But to go into detail, there is no real silencing of political dissent. Okay? If you want to be an Antifa jerk-off, you can. If you want to be a Trump sucker, you can. That's what I'm saying, is if you look at the round of absolute silencing China has been doing, right?
Right.
Okay, and the same thing, this is where I was talking about, again, I have a student that father escaped Russia. He took the family from there, right? Looking into their history. Why do they have a one-party system? Why do they have, quote-unquote, elections with one party? Oh, because if you have 2 parties, you could change things, right? That's the same. China went into Hong Kong, arrested a whole bunch of people that were part of a different party and said, oh, yeah, you still have elections. You could
kick
vote
the
for
Falun Gong out too.
Yeah,
I actually got one of their flyers in my car the other day.
Get out of here!
Yeah,
really?
no shit. So Epoch Times and everything, man.
Wow,
so,
did you frame it?
No, I turned the windshield wiper and it flew off.
All right. But that was the thing, is I'm starting to think that the signs of problems, real problems, are when people have to start silencing people. And there is no version of this. There is no version of this that's going on in this country. You can talk about it. You can talk about whether big tech is doing this. And I think to a certain point, look, you just provide a service.
Yeah.
If you had the stones to say, we don't take any affiliation, do you want to advertise here? Fine.
Yeah.
And, if people decide to rabble-rouse like they did in the religious 80s, you say, go fuck yourself. If people say, well, I don't want to buy you because you're transphobic, go fuck yourself. We just provide the platform.
Yeah, see, that's so funny. And, most people, at least my students are a little bit too young, but people who are a little bit older than my students, the ones who are causing most of the rabble-rousing in some respects, they weren't there in the 1980s when we had the conservative coalition trying to ban fucking video games
religious
and
right,
the religious right and this whole thing
PMRC,
with, everybody trying to get rid of Wayne's World and all that shit, and realizing that it just got mocked into the ground eventually, to the point in time where it eventually, it was like, oh, actually, you know what, all of us are really cool with gay marriage now. And that happened in the span of 4 years, which was awesome. All right.
Well, it took a little bit longer. It did take
when one
about...
state broke, and I think the first one was Kansas, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
Oh, for gay marriage?
Yeah, that
Why?
actually. Okay, so well, whichever one was continental first, and I think it might have been Kansas. It was a state that you would not expect. I do remember that.
Yeah, because did they look at it from a completely libertarian standpoint?
yeah.
Which is
yeah, and like
that was my argument.
It might have been
all the time.
Iowa. Come to think, I can't remember. But then like they had this wave of weddings that took place because of course you have to like I've got a legal marriage certificate, so now I can use it to file my taxes, so I can get the marriage exemption. You know, and then all of a sudden the dam broke, and like 4 years later everybody was cool. And then the Supreme Court came out and said, well, actually, yeah, you know, you can't like. You know, discriminate on the basis of this because, you know, this state says it's legal and this one doesn't. So that doesn't jive. And it broke so fast. But, you know, the mockery that was going into it beforehand where, you know, it was like literally, that was that Simpsons episode with Marge. And it was, don't do this, don't do that, nag, nag, nag.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just merciless at the time. And, you know, like now I'm starting to see that, like, okay, so history doesn't repeat, but Twain is right. It does rhyme sometimes. And this whole thing that's going on with Chappelle and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, that's going to break Netflix. Okay. It's going to absolutely break Netflix. It's not going to break Chappelle. Okay.
No.
It's going to break that company. All right. If they turn back now, they're
They
screwed.
capitulate. Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things where, like, I think you're kind of onto something here where, you know, there's as much as we say cancel culture is kind of thing, it's not really canceling anybody, you know? I mean, because look at all the people that it's giving voice to. I mean, like Brett Weinstein should not be a thing, okay? He really shouldn't.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
His podcast isn't that great.
Yeah.
All right? So, especially since he and his wife have, like, you know, like, I don't know. I'm not going to, you know, sit here and pimp out our broadcast skills, but I think we've got him beat in terms of, like, emotion. I mean, I actually laugh, and I've heard you laugh on the podcast. Many times. Yeah, I don't think it's ever happened.
Loudly and obnoxiously.
Yeah, so anyway. But, you know, that's neither here nor there, okay?
It's valid.
Okay. All right, we'll take it. So,
take that, Brett Weinstein.
Take that, Brett Weinstein, yeah.
If you got a problem with it,
yeah,
come here and comment.
Yeah, come here and comment. Like, comment, and subscribe.
I wish the fuck you would.
Have you ever listened to his podcast?
I know of him.
Okay,
It's just it's not something that interests me.
No. I only found it because of Rogan.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen bites of him, but I've never. No part of it has said I want to invest more time in this in greater detail.
Yeah, but this was like cancelee number 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the what do they call that?
Patient zero.
Yeah. So this is patient 0, and he's out there and he's doing fine. You know, maybe he wants a tenure track job. I'm sure he could get one at Liberty University in a heartbeat.
Sure.
But, you know, I mean, so he taught at a super liberal college up in Washington. All right. And so patient 0, this is ground zero for this shit. And he's fine. He's out there doing great. Yeah. And so I think actually your point has a little bit more validity to it than I was thinking of before. So,
well, this is what I'm saying. This is when you silence complete outlets, when people cannot get their message out. And again, I'm going to talk about YouTube. I'm going to talk about these other places where they say, all right, we're gonna demonetize this. We're gonna change these things to deprioritize this, or we're going to put COVID warnings or whatever. You know, Twitter is saying we're going to flag these things and say this. You know, and then of course there's the banning of the president. Got it. You made your stand. That's going to come to bite you eventually. The issue with this here is every action you take like this is going to blow up on you, because again, you talked about the patient zeros of canceling. Did they cancel Jordan Peterson? No, I think he's doing fine.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Have they canceled Dennis Prager? Have they canceled
Dennis Prager?
So look, there are a lot of people that say every day it's like you got to cancel this guy. Did they Yeah, they canceled the fuck out of Joe Rogan and his $100 million.
Yeah.
His audience that dwarfs CNN 100 times over, right?
Man, that makes him so mad too.
If that's what they're canceling Dave Chappelle right now, who is like the #1 program on that network.
Oh,
right.
Well, I don't know that Squid Game one might have him beat.
I think those things are kind of like hand in hand, but I think, well, keep in mind he's just like one guy in,
right? Yeah,
you know, like one special versus 14. Who killed this child? episodes of whatever bullshit crime documentary you're wasting 14 hours on. But yeah, given the fact that there are outlets, that they are not actually shutting people down, that's when you got to worry.
Yeah.
That's when people organize.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing that's definitely not patently apparent is any form of organization, on either side, to tell you the truth. I mean, to tell me that Trump Nation is organized is like it's like saying, well, a cow herd is kind of organized.
Yeah.
But when you turn it loose, it kind of does its own thing.
They all just kind of wander.
Yeah,
like, you gotta get the dog leg.
And let alone the left, which is basically a shark that keeps biting itself. It's crazy, man. It's not even a shark. It's like, I mean, I can't believe that. Like, there are certain people who have gotten turned on by like extreme lefties out there. Like Barry Weiss, that one blows my mind, man.
Insanity.
That is absolute insanity. I remember reading her in the Times, and it was like, "Oh my God, man, you are okay. So you're the person I peg on this left end. Okay, over here, got it. All right. So I'll come to your opinion if I want that perspective." And all of a sudden, she gets canceled. This is crazy, man.
That is absurd.
Yeah, and I mean the whole like I don't know. You said you had a student who was writing a paper on intersectionality, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, man. That's like a prism now. So it's like this thing that just refracts light and just like keeps any of it from getting concentrated, But that's for another podcast,
Yeah. And, it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't want to come down too hard on intersectionality. I will if I have to. But I do want to say that I'm not saying that the ideas within it aren't valid. It's the question of, well, what the fuck are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I get to that pragmatic edge on it, too. It's like, so what does that mean?
Right.
Okay, so does that mean I owe you a check? So
my whole argument is, look, I've said this before, I'm going to say it right now. Like, I am all in support of writing the check. But the check with the condition says, okay, this is the idea of reparations.
Right.
Okay? When you do reparations, like in legal terms, that means you've been made whole.
The case is closed.
And that means you never get to bring it up again.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen.
That's not how it works. Because the really ugly side is, let's say we do that, Patrick. Let's say that we actually did that.
I've heard this argument, yeah.
Well, no, the problem is, then you actually get to put a literal dollar amount on what this meant to you.
Yep. No, and it's going to be negotiated. Yeah. No, I've seen so many arguments against that from really, really, really clever guys.
100%.
Yeah, that if I were to talk on that, I would just be lifting their arguments. So basically,
yeah.
So I've got nothing original on that because, like exactly what you're telling me right there is like, okay, so let's put a dollar amount on that. Okay, so what are the implications of us putting a dollar amount on that? That leads us to really ugly places. That's way better of an argument than I could ever come up with. So, and it's definitely something that I didn't consider when because, when you first start coming out, I was like, oh, okay. I can see some merit behind this, but then you start thinking about it. It's like, well, first of all, like, that's a huge topic for another day.
No. Yeah. All right, I want to get out the big piece of this since we open that can. This is the part of this that bothers me is, all right, it's the same way that you look at it with a class action lawsuit. Generally speaking, they're so big, and even though you break it down and say, oh, it's $26 million or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. What individuals typically make in a class action lawsuit is pretty small.
Yeah.
Right?
So you get your plate of Rice Krispies.
See, well, okay, that actually was more meaningful in the context of the show, but I don't like the idea of breaking this down and saying, okay, we have now summed the pain and suffering and the legacy of living through these things as the cost of one of those new Xboxes. Or to say, oh, okay, well, your reparations were the cost of a small sedan. Or we are now even because you go to Jeep Liberty. Okay, that disgusts me. Right? Because when you break it down, that's how it plays out.
Yeah, it's purely transactional.
Yeah.
So that doesn't do anything to actually solve any problems. So, in fact, it probably complicates them. So
100 times over, because then you say, wait, we're done with this.
Yeah, we're done with this. Yeah.
You bring this up again, we'll fine you.
We'll find you, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and I mean, like, there's, and so, yeah, I mean, so, like, the reparations thing is probably just the tip of that iceberg in some respects, because then you go down the intersectionality tunnel on this one. What does it mean? And I mean, okay, so we're going to do reparations. What does that mean for, like, people who are indigenous in the United States?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so does it mean we're going to pour, tons of money into reservations at this point in time? So, it's just an ugly conversation that, doesn't serve any purpose other than, and I mean, the other thing that happens, and I think it was Glenn Lowry who pointed this out, is it seeds the high ground, the moral high ground in some respects. Yeah, that is really one of the last defenses, and one of the last bastions to actually get, to some kind of like resolution on this, which, I mean, who knows how long that'll take and exactly how many forms. But, and I was just reminiscing about this the other day. I mean, god dang, man, 10, 15 years ago, it felt like you're so fucking close, there's still a little bit going around and stuff like that, but like before, like Ferguson and all, like, well, probably Trayvon Martin, and some of that stuff.
Yeah.
It just got blown up, and I don't know why that happened. So, because, I mean, like, if Chappelle did this show 10 years ago, no problem.
As a matter of fact, it would probably be being championed.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
No, well, then some people are championing it. Well, there's another piece of that they're hitting on, right? There's a piece, you can go to Rotten Tomatoes right now and look at the audience score versus the critic score.
Yeah.
What's the divide? It's like 75 points.
Yeah.
Right?
Not in favor of the critics.
Well, and this is the weird thing. This is something that came up is, all right, how did these people come to find themselves to be film critics or entertainment critics? Well, Patrick, this is something I've given some thought to, and given that I'm out of coffee, I'll kind of close on this one.
All right.
Right? This is something I find problematic because there's a lot of people taking film criticism in a direction that I find insulting to entertainment. And let me say it this way. There's a lot of media out there that isn't for me.
Sure.
All right? I cannot give you a full-on review of Happy Feet in earnestness because I have to say, this is not for me.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean I can't review it, but what I can say is, all right, I can see what this movie is intending to do. Does it accomplish it? Does it do so in a clunky way? Does it do so? Does it get there at all? Does it wander because it doesn't know what it's trying to accomplish?
It's really clunky, though.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But at least I can look at it from an objective standpoint. All right? This is where you're seeing the divide between people that are, big air quotes, critics and the audience, because if you think about what the goal of Dave Chappelle's show was, the audience is saying, I expected a guy to tell jokes. Right. And he did.
Yeah.
Positive score.
Yeah.
The critics evidently expected a TED Talk and an apology about his transphobia from last.
Yeah, mea culpa. Yeah.
And they're saying, well, I didn't get that.
Right.
Thumbs down.
Yeah, you're looking for the wrong thing. Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to throw all film criticism under the bus. There are a lot of traditional film critics. You would never have seen Gene Shalit go in there and say, I have all of these preconceptions about this piece of media before I saw it. No, you go see Carnosaur.
You want to see people get ed.
You say, all right, I know what I'm going in here for. I'm not angry at it ahead of time. Okay. You have to review all those Chris Farley movies in earnest. You have to go to each one fresh and say, hey, what are you offering me?
Yeah.
Right?
Am I looking for a laugh?
But if you come in there and you say, I'm automatically going to downvote this or upvote this based off of what the political intention was, you are a failure as a fucking film critic, and you're an embarrassment to the industry.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to stay in that industry unless you do that. So, at least it's a short-term proposition if you think about it. if I'm the person who goes out there and I write for, the Los Angeles Times, and I say, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, I'm fired within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
hey, man, I got 5 years left before I vest in my pension. Yeah, I'll fucking pencil this in. So, then I won't get fired. I get it. It's cowardly, but also at the same point in time, hey, man, if you're on the Titanic, so you play until you see a seat on a lifeboat.
I get it. No, you're right. Okay. And as much as I'm not just one to take the just a soldier following orders argument,
Right.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the individual perspective, you got to protect you and yours.
Yeah.
Right. We had this.
I don't
same-
see any shame in that. So,
Right.
yeah, I get
But-
you. Yeah.
I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy who says, you didn't stand on your artistic merit
Oh my God.
100%.
Yeah, okay.
Get a piece of rope from your garage and hang yourself. You disgust me.
Yeah, use some piano wire while you're at it.
Put your lips on that
Yeah,
exhaust
yeah,
pipe
yeah, yeah.
and take 2 deep
Two
breaths.
deep breaths. Don't call me back.
Because look, because this is me. If it's this is I don't know where I got that art school approach of art at all costs, where I say, look, if you hire this director and his artistic vision is 2 minutes and 2 hours and 40 minutes of gay kissing, and that's my artistic vision.
Yeah.
If anybody interferes,
Yeah.
this is like the biggest travesty,
Yeah.
right? Like people should be being arrested, but for interfering with his vision. But
Sorry, man. I'm the guy who went to business
I know.
school. So
this is why you've refused to go into any business
Yeah.
venture I've ever.
no, man. I won't even open a car wash with you, bro.
So you're right. I totally understand that. So I have to have that perspective. You're reaching with the pragmatic perspective. But the fact is, I don't hate you.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit here and say, well, Patrick doesn't agree with my stance
Right.
on.
I'm gonna delete his Twitter account.
Tell you one guy is not invited at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, but I like your mom.
I'm out of coffee. What about you?
I'm cashiered, man.
All right.
Yeah, I'm cashiered.
So what does that mean?
Episode. That's curtain call. So
That means bedtime?
yeah.
right.
So closing thought for the night. You got one?
Just the
short one.
the 3 golden words.
3 golden words.
Oh.
I don't know.
Like.
Oh, like, comment, and subscribe.
I just want somebody else to say it instead of me.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. No, you seem like you've been the guy who's pushing that lately. So I'll do it. Like, comment, subscribe. So join us on Fridays and Wednesdays, usually about 10 p.m.
Wow.
Mountain Standard Time. So we don't live on the left coast or the East Coast. So
No, we live in neutral.
we live in neutral
yeah,
Colorado.
we live in a state where Highlanders can't fight.
No, this is
Holy ground.
Yeah, it's holy ground. You're not allowed to fight in this state. So yeah.
It was bedtime.
All right. Yeah.
Much appreciated.
All right. I'm Pat,
I'm Jeffrey,
and it's bedtime.
and
See
that's
ya.
Kinsasha.
Yeah.